So earlier in this year, I made the decision that I was going to change the way I went about collecting this year. And one of the things that I set out to do was to try to focus things down a little bit. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. Nice to see you. And the focus this year was to have the Summer of Sega, which I've talked about kind of incessantly since March, and thank you for sticking with me, although subscription numbers are down since March, so maybe that's a lesson learned here. But nonetheless, I decided I was going to focus down my collecting on just Sega stuff this summer. Now, that's not to say I was going to completely ignore stuff from Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Quite to the contrary, I would still pick stuff up if I saw it, especially if it was on a good deal, but Sega was going to be the focus. And I've really enjoyed myself this year. I actually think that it has been almost remarkable how much it has broadened my horizons and really built my collection up positively. By limiting things down, I've actually picked up more stuff this year, which is kind of crazy when you stop and think about it, but when you focus on just one thing and you drill down on just one particular aspect of collecting, it does tend to make things a lot easier. So I wanted to talk to you about that today and kind of talk to you about kind of the psychology of where I was going with it and why I made that decision. Now, the Summer of Sega is not over. It goes on all the way through the Cleveland Gaming Classic at the end of September, at which point I will do a recap of all the Sega stuff I picked up over the summer, which summer, for all intents and purposes, was half of a year because I started it in April at Midwest Gaming Classic, but it's neither here nor there. It's my channel. I can make up dates. You know, I lived in Florida for a long time, so summer down there is like 11 and a half months of the year, so really, I think you're getting off easy here. But the focus this year, like I said, was Sega products, and that was going to be all Sega products. It wasn't going to just be Genesis, although that has been the main focus and the main pickups this year. I was going to be looking for stuff on the Saturn, on the Sega CD, on the 32X, on the Dreamcast, and even on the SG-1000. Now, I've struck out thus far on the Saturn and the Sega CD, and it's not because there hasn't been opportunities to pick stuff up. It's been because I just haven't been able to afford the opportunities that have been there. Now, there have been some killer games I've seen for those consoles at various conventions, or at various shops here around town, or in places that I'm visiting, like Greenville, South Carolina for Siege, or down in Columbus for Korgs, but it really hasn't had any kind of impact on my collecting habits. I would love to find more stuff for the Saturn, love to find more stuff for the Sega CD, but the medium's expensive. It is what it is, and that's got to be understood at this point. I also have the advantage of having a Japanese Saturn, so I have been able to pick up some stuff on the fairly cheap on that regard by picking up Japanese games, but it does play US games as well, so I would love to find some more US stuff for it. It's just not in the cards right now, and that's all right. The other side of that, of course, like I mentioned, is the Sega CD. Now, there have not been any absence of Sega CD games at every convention I've gone to. There's been a ton of them at different conventions, at different shops that I go to. One of the shops here in town, Replay It Retro, has a huge selection of Sega CD games, and there haven't been any that have really stood out to me that have said, yes, you need to own that, you need to pick that up. It's just kind of been a thing where I've let them go, and I don't feel bad about that, which is interesting because 2 years ago, when I first started buying stuff for the Sega CD, I felt terrible when I would let stuff go. It would really weigh on me that I wasn't buying it, and I think that was kind of the refocus and kind of one of those impetus moments where I looked at it and I said, this whole collecting thing that I do needs to change, it needs to shift, it needs to be different because I can't just go through and buy everything anymore. It's unhealthy, it's unfocused, and that's not the way I collect things. That's not the way I want to collect things, at least. That's how I used to collect things. I should show you all my Clone Wars figures from Star Wars sometime, but it was a case where I needed to pare it down and I needed to focus. But this year it's been very lucky. By focusing on Sega stuff, it has been really kind of remarkable the things that I have found. Rather than going to a convention and just going like, oh, I've got a list 100 miles long of things I want to pick up, I really had like a list of 20 Genesis games that I was looking for, or a list of 10 Saturn titles, or 20 Dreamcast titles, or things for the Game Gear, since, you know, this happened and kind of kicked off the Summer of Sega, actually, was when Chris and Thor got me this for my birthday. But it was a case where I really felt refreshed. And frankly stated, I really felt positive about the situation, and something where collecting wasn't really a thing that I was enjoying as much anymore. It just kind of became a habit to buy stuff, but focusing that stuff down and really kind of deciding that I was going to just look at Sega stuff this year as kind of my primary source of collecting really made things exciting. It really made things fun. Now, I've definitely branched out. It hasn't just been stuff that was created for a Sega console. I definitely expanded the horizons a little bit and said, you know what, we're going to include anything that was developed by Sega as well, which is why there's stuff like these 3 games here, which are recent pickups that I haven't had a chance to play yet. I've heard terrible things about this. I hope it's good, but nothing I've heard about it makes me very positive, which sucks because it's Alien. Alien is such a great property. It should be fun, but pretty cool to get these Sonic games, though. I did like that. But by branching that stuff out and by saying this is the breadth of what I'm going for this year, it really allowed me to look for those things, and it also kind of opened up a side of things where those things that I was looking for presented opportunities elsewhere as well. Stuff like this, for example. Like, I wasn't looking for this game. I wasn't looking for stuff on the GBA, but to get Mega Man in base for under 20 bucks, that's pretty good score. And I wouldn't have found that if I wasn't focused on Sega stuff, because I was looking at Sega GBA games. I was looking at stuff for Sega handhelds at the time, and I just happened to come across it. And I was like, I forgot that released on the GBA. I should pick that up. That will look great on the Mega Man trend. So it has broadened the horizons, but also made it significantly more enjoyable. By limiting, it grew, which was a really interesting kind of psychological way to look at things, because it wasn't something I was anticipating by any stretch of the imagination. Quite to the contrary, I was actually hoping I was going to be able to save some money this summer. And I guess I have. Really, in the grand scheme of things. I haven't spent as much this year as I did at conventions in years past, but instead of just going full bore and collecting for the entire wide spectrum of video games, which is, again, still happening, just not as much, I was able to spend money but only focus on things I wanted to get, or only focus on adding stuff to my collection that was going to make me happy. And that's really what this boiled down to. You guys saw videos last summer where I was talking about my collecting habits needing to change. I think it's very, very apparent and very easy to recognize. I was unhappy. I wasn't enjoying the process of collecting. I wasn't enjoying the thrill of the hunt anymore because it was just not rewarding for me. Rather than pursuing things that I loved or pursuing things that I was excited to play, I was falling into old habits of just grabbing everything. And that needed to change because it was killing me. It was killing the entire channel. It was killing the entire process and joy of collecting. It was taking something that I really love and I really enjoy doing and taking the entire spirit out of it, taking the entire soul out of it. And that really sucked, because the idea of collecting, and the thing that I really love about collecting, is the ability to go to a shop and pick up something there, or go to a convention and find something there, or hang out with friends and do a trade. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I love to do. But it got to the point where I was just like, I'm going to buy that on eBay. It takes all the fun out of it, you know? And that's really, I guess, ultimately what the Summer of Sega has been about for me, was putting the fun back into collecting. I really gotta think about how I'm gonna say this, because I don't want it to sound negative. When I look at channels like Metal Jesus, the stuff that drew me to his channel in the first place were his collecting videos. Stuff where he was doing buying guides for things, or doing, these are the hidden gems on this particular console, or when he just goes on a road trip and does pickups at the end of it. That was stuff that I lived for. Those are the channels and the videos that I really enjoyed. And somewhere along the way, that mutated in my head to, Jason has a huge collection, Jason must buy everything, I must buy everything. I started watching Pixel Game Squad and Gabbo the Giver, and they're going after complete NES sets, and I was like, oh, I need to go after complete sets too. I need to have all of this stuff, when I wasn't playing 95% of it. You know, over the last year, the thing that has brought me the most happiness in my collecting journey was completing my NHL set. A collection that probably only I care about. It's 32 years of games. It's 32 different editions. Actually, it's 34, 35, counting the variants. Editions of NHL hockey from Electronic Arts on a variety of consoles, starting all the way to the Genesis up to the Xbox Series X. And that was a goal I set for myself last year. When I first kind of planted the seeds of my collecting habits needing to change, I had said, and I remember saying this to Chris from Game Dad, I said, you know what, I'm going to get the entire NHL set one day. And he looked at me and he said, you do you, baby boo. And that is Chris for, that's stupid, but go for it. And I did. And I saw the change in his perception of what I was going for when we were actually at Disc Replay I want to say it was up in Grand Rapids when we were doing the big game hunt last December, and I bought like 15 different games, and I think I spent $40 because so many of them were sports titles. These are games no one wants, except me. These are the games I want to collect. These are the things that are bringing me joy, rather than just saying, oh, I need to find Elmo's Letter Adventure on the N64 or Sesame Street Speak and Spell on the NES because I need it to complete a collection. It's not something that brings me happiness. It's not something that brings me joy. It was just collecting for collecting's sake. And with Sega and the focus this year, I promise this is a very rambling video and I apologize for that, but the focus this year being on Sega has really led me to just kind of buy things that I think I'm going to enjoy, or things that I never had a chance to play in the past that I heard good stuff about and then picked up and found out it was terrible. And some of those are going to be sent down the road along the way, but they're going to be held on to until the end of summer just so I can do the recap at the end and show you the games and stuff like that. There's definitely been some terrible stuff that I've picked up. And while that sucks, at least there was a focus. At least there was a drive towards a goal as opposed to the end goal just being acquire. It was, I want to celebrate my love of Sega. And I think it's been really fun. It's a weird video, and I apologize for that. This isn't the kind of thing I usually do, and it's something where, frankly stated, I wanted to do a ranking video today. I wanted to do a video that I know is going to get the clicks, that I know is going to get the views, but they're high-effort content, and it's something that will come, and it'll be a great ranking video, something that I think a lot of people will enjoy, because I'm going to be ranking every mainline Mega Man game. But that'll be for next week. But for now, let me know in the comments down below what you think about collecting. What's your focus? What's your goal? Are you a completionist? I also want to say this. If you are a completionist, don't let that be dissuaded by anything I have said. I am one dude on the internet with an opinion. That should not impact what brings you joy and what brings you happiness. For fuck's sake, I'm going after the entire Neo Geo Pocket Color set because it brings me happiness. You know, it's not something necessarily that I think a lot of people would look at and say, why are you going after that set? Why are you buying those games on an archaic handheld that no one developed for, that no one plays, that has no online infrastructure, that has no support to this day? There's not even homebrews being made. You're going after this thing that SNK kind of crapped out at the start of the millennium and just dropped. Why are you doing that? Because it makes me happy. And I think that's the ultimate reason right there. That's the important thing. What brings you happiness in collecting? What makes you excited? What brings you joy as you're building a collection and you are going after things that you are adding to your hoard of games? What's your favorite thing you picked up this summer? I'll show you mine real quick. So my favorite thing that I picked up so far this summer is this right here, Streets of Rage 2. I really like this because it's the not for resale copy. I'd never actually seen that before, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I was very happy to add this to the collection. This was something that actually kind of started the Summer of Sega. I got this at the Midwest Gaming Classic. But recently, I got an addendum to Streets of Rage 2, and it's this awesome Alex figure. I found this at Walmart this week, and I just thought that was really cool. It's actually really well articulated, too. It's pretty cool. There's a whole line of them. There's Alex, there's the werewolf from Altered Beast, and there's Ai from Super Monkey Ball. I got him, too, which is super cool. I just really love this stuff. I love that we're seeing some kind of moderate Sega renaissance. I mean, which is kind of cool, especially because there's no Sega console right now. So to get stuff like this makes me happy. But let me know in the comments down below what's your favorite thing you picked up this summer. What is something that has brought you joy? What are your collecting goals going forward? Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. I appreciate you if you've made it this far, sitting through this entire video. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you hang out. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.